I ain't out here claiming that Minecraft is hard, but its random nature can make for some unpredictably dangerous situations. Here's the one that kind of was the last straw for me. So, I'm lining up a cave, right? Holding crouch as one does, so as to not fall off ledges. I had a shield in full iron, which is actually a bit earlier than when I usually get it. But as I was lighting the cave, a creeper fell from above. And if you don't know, they'll actually do this on purpose if they can survive the fall because, for some reason, fall damage shortens their fuse time. It exploded and killed me near instantly. Now, some of you might still consider this death my fault somehow, but I don't. In this game, you can do everything right and still die. But it's not enough that I died, right? Now, because of a technical limitation, my items are on a 5-minute timer before they despawn, cold from the game forever. That's not enough either, right? Because they just had to burst from my body at Mach fuck in random directions, potentially falling into environmental hazards like cacti, lava, fire, and rarely explosions, getting cold from the game forever. But that's not enough either, because they could also fall into the hands of enemies who will use them against me. But even if I managed to make the trip back, even if I managed to defeat all the enemies, I could still permanently lose some of my items as they flew into a different fucking time zone because I made the mistake of bringing them with me, of using items that I made. Now, not every death in Minecraft is this frustrating or unfair, but this specific situation has happened to me way more than I care to deal with. There's also the idea that I shouldn't take everything with me, but if I'm just gonna keep it at home because I can lose it one day, then what was the point of making it? So, let's turn on Keep Inventory. Problem solved, right? Well, kinda. Salutations, quality clientele. Local Lodito Loy here to say that Keep Inventory is actually more nuanced than you might think. I've been playing Minecraft for over 10 years now, and for 99% of it, I played with the game rule Keep Inventory turned off, as I thought it was cheating. I was told it was cheating by everyone else who played and the game itself. But recently, I've been playing with it on to see if it's as cheap as I've always thought, and I'm not gonna lie, man. Keep Inventory tastes so good when you don't got a nigga in your ear telling you it's trash. It's not all good, though. It comes down to solving some problems, but revealing new ones in the process. To explain it better, I want to go over what dying in Minecraft is supposed to achieve from a gameplay perspective. So you may have heard of the death run, or corpse run, right? It's a moment in gameplay where the player is tasked to journey back to their corpse to retrieve something important. In games like Dark Souls and Hollow Knight, it serves as a way to encourage the player to repeatedly travel through difficult areas, demanding that they overcome the trial, or, at the very least, do it long enough to get in and get out. Now, I believe that this mini gameplay loop works as intended in these games for at least 2 reasons. The first is predictability and difficulty from both the player and the developer. These games are not procedurally generated, and neither are the enemies. They'll be in the same places, and the places themselves will be the same. This allows a player to gain skill and familiarity with the area quickly. Now, these games are notoriously difficult, but predictably and fairly so. The second reason it works is because of what one actually stands to lose from death. In Hollow Knight Silksong, for example, the player has many forms of progression. Their needle, movement abilities, crests, and so on. But when you die, you only lose your main currency. It still is used for everything in the game, however, so, it's important enough to get back should you choose to retrieve it. And while I haven't played any of the Dark Souls games myself, it seems largely the same, where the souls you lose are required for progression, but they aren't the progression itself. The point is, when you die, it's usually your fault, and even if it isn't, you're never at risk of losing literally everything you've ever worked for up to that point. So with all that said, Minecraft's death mechanics are uniquely unfair, in my opinion. I know it's strange to say, coming from someone who's played survival with Keep Inventory turned off for 10 years, like probably most of you, right? But let's be real for a second, okay? We've all either heard or have personal stories of someone dying super far into a playthrough and quitting because they just lost fucking everything, man. If you're solo, obviously that's the end of the playthrough, but losing someone can really take the wind out of everybody else while playing multiplayer. So here's why I think it sucks so bad to die in Minecraft specifically. There is no meta progression to speak of in this game. There's no character stats, no skill tree, no currency. Hell, you don't even get to keep your experience when you die. And I think this is one of the only games this happens in. It really feels like you're controlling a different unrelated person every time you respawn. Anyway, instead, all your progression, like XP and such, is funneled into the gear that you take with you. So when it's all left behind after a death that genuinely might have been some bullshit, depending on how much you lost, I mean, you might as well quit and start over because of how long it's going to take to get it all back. All of the gear progression itself is also based on several layers of randomness too. The enchantment table and enchantments in general is the main way to get your gear stronger. You can find tools already enchanted, which is random, enchanted books, which is random, or use the enchantment table, which is the worst random offender. Now look, okay, I'm all for a little gambling here and there, right? You know, RNG as a tool for scaling progression isn't necessarily anything new or groundbreaking, but the execution here leaves damn near everything to be desired. I mean, it's literally the only way to progress with no way of curbing it in the player's favor, and it feels awful. And this is why I'm not really a fan of the implementation of some villagers' trades, because many of them serve as ways to avoid entire gameplay loops as kind of a band-aid fix. And while they are random too, the difference here is that you just have to get what you're looking for once or twice and then you're set. You don't have to worry about it ever again. You can just keep buying the same stuff from them. Now, look, trust me, I've got way more to say on this, as I'm sure we all do, but this ain't about them, right? The point is, trudging through this randomness slog is what's going through a player's head as they watch their items burn in lava and hit quit game. And then there's that unpredictability that I talked about earlier. As long as some very simple conditions are met, hostile mobs will spawn. Basically anywhere. And they can do it while you're there trying to light the place up. They'll do this in hordes too. And depending on how far away your death is, they'll be in different places every time you go back. It might not even be the same mobs you're fighting. And we're not even considering the random enemies you'll encounter on the way there, all right? You might have died to a group of skeletons and then, all right, fine, I'll bring a shield. Only to find nothing but creepers and witches when you get there. So even if you understood why you died and tried to change your strategy, the game might not even give you a chance to adapt to the challenge that bested you in the first place. And then there's what actually happens when you die, the immensely frustrating series of events I talked about at the beginning of the video. You know, you become a piñata for some reason and your items explode out of you like fucking chaos emeralds after supersonic transformation. And any levels over 7 you had, gone to the win. You don't even get a chance to get that shit back. Fuck you, I guess. Why 7? I don't fucking know. I don't think they know either. Everything you do in this game is stored in the items that you have, all of which you lose upon death. And sometimes, like in cases of lava or void accidents, irrecoverable. Remember, by the way, not even Dark Souls decided that losing literally everything you've ever had was a fair punishment, and that's a game with difficulty that far exceeds that of Minecraft, okay? So turn on Keep Inventory and the game becomes far more fair. Sure, but maybe too much. With Keep Inventory on, you lose nothing when you die. You actually used to lose XP, but now you don't even lose that either. I'm not sure when that changed, but remember that because we'll come back to it later. So no more death runs at all, and now you can have fun exploring because the only risk to your items is your own stupidity. Issue. Not my stupidity. Without the risk of losing everything, I noticed myself drawn towards decisions that, upon reflection, kind of harmed the gameplay experience. You know, cue the memes of Keep Inventory players jumping off cliff faces at the slightest inconvenience. You know, you're low on health, why eat and heal when you can respawn at full HP? There's actually a huge problem on Bedrock Edition. Like, I took fall damage before writing this script, and the video legitimately might be out before I'm done healing. Far away from home? No need for infrastructure or any method of travel, really. And if home's where you want to go, simply kick the bucket. Lost in a cave? Hey, that's fine. Don't train your navigation skills or techniques to find your way back. It's so easy, just kill yourself. You basically have a teleport to spawn and a get out of anything free card you can use on command with no cost, cooldown, or penalty. Large sections of your world are rendered obsolete when you can just kill yourself. I mean, the entire concept of the return trip doesn't exist because you neither have a penalty for dying nor an incentive for staying alive. Minecraft relies so much on its incredibly strict death system that if you take it away, many reasons for interacting with your world can go along with it, and I think this is probably what avid Keep Inventory haters point to when they say that it's cheating. The lack of Minecraft's only real punishment can lead to a much drier experience, but keep it and you have players constantly running up against setbacks that can sometimes feel as damaging as a hardcore run. Long story short, Keep Inventory isn't perfect, and I don't think it's the solution to this problem. At least not in its current form, but not even alone. Luckily, the problem has many different avenues that we can look at it from, whether it be the penalty for dying, giving an incentive for living, or even shifting some of the progression away from items and towards the player character. Now let's start with the one that's most straightforward, dying. The first solution that comes to my mind is the mini gravestone mods that you might have seen floating around. The way they work is when you die, your items are stored at a gravestone at your death location. This means that you still need to do the corpse run and you still have to contend with circumstances potentially being entirely different when you get back. But the number one thing is that your items are safe. They no longer fly in random directions, they can't fall in hazards, they can't be picked up by enemies, and they can't despawn because they're in an inventory. And as long as you didn't die in a hazard, like lava or the void, your progression is still in the world, just not with you at the moment. And because it's safely stored, you don't have to rush into a dangerous situation unprepared either. You can take more time to prepare a good counterattack. And now, you have the choice of leaving it behind with the knowledge that you might come back for it one day. Something you really couldn't do before with the threat of, deletion. Now, there's various forms of this solution that leave behind varying amounts of items and XP, some that make the gravestones have timers and so on. But while it's serviceable, it still doesn't really address that you lost your main and only progression, the very progression that you might need to get it back in the first place. Regardless, if you're dead set on losing your items on death, this at least makes it bearable. But what if you didn't have to lose them? What if you could instead lose something that would still be worth retrieving? Well, it turns out Minecraft already has a resource like this. Remember earlier when I talked about XP being lost on death? I think that's a good start, with the added benefit of receiving it all when you make it back, of course. The thing is, despite some of the developers' claims, tools and armor are basically permanent once you get to a certain point, so XP as a resource greatly diminishes in value. This is where I think an XP sink of some kind, like maybe character stats or skills, could come in handy. It'd be useful all throughout the game, and provide a reason to gain XP past tool completion. And on the topic of XP sinks, perhaps mending could slowly cost more experience over time, or scale its cost with the number and strength of enchantments on the item as well. I think enchantment tables were supposed to be something like this, but the system has such a low predictability that players avoid it altogether. Avoided with a system that costs basically nothing, XP-wise, mind you. So what if instead you lost your strength or vitality? Your hearts are valuable because each death would make it easier to die again. And this could essentially give you lives on hardcore too, where you permanently die if you die with half a heart or, 1 max HP. And on other difficulties, if you die with half a heart, your life would just really suck until you could raise your max HP again. Maybe this could be done with something like a diamond apple, which would replenish either half a heart or a full heart upon eating. This could also double as giving players reasons to hunt for diamonds beyond the 30 to 40-ish that they'll, need for life. Maybe you could even craft an enchanted diamond apple with diamond blocks to expand your max HP beyond 20. I was also thinking about certain mobs taking more max HP from you than others, as well as, minimum HP being determined by difficulty and stuff, but, you get the idea by now. All right, so reasons to live, reasons to keep going. I can see something as simple as an escalating luck bonus that goes up just a little bit every day, probably to some cap, but very high. I say some cap because I think having too high luck would actually make certain items in drop tables unobtainable. I'm not actually quite sure how that works, but I obviously also want it to be high to feel impactful enough. I don't know, maybe your beacons could get stronger buffs and increased buff range, scaling with your current living streak or something. Maybe there are positive effects that can happen, like a triple crop growth day or double archaeology drops day or something. And they have a very minuscule chance of happening by default, but every certain amount of Minecraft days you survive will increase the chance of it happening. A system like this would probably be supplementary though, as I don't think it'd be able to stand on its own. All right, so What would my ideal Minecraft death system look like? Honestly, it could take many forms as long as the threat of death isn't losing all of your progression. Gravestones are nice for keeping your items relatively safe, but still don't protect you from everything. You still gotta be extra careful in other dimensions, which I think is fine, honestly. It would be nice to have forms of progression outside your items though, like skills or whatever, but I am aware that more RPG elements may not be what the game needs. The ones already in the game have a habit of being important enough to become a roadblock to those who just want to build, but lacking in the depth to really be of much interest to those who actually like engaging with these systems. More on that later. And by later, I mean another video or something. Long story short, I'd make death less punishing or life more rewarding, with the goal of either being to make it more likely that the player hits continue. Keep Inventory is a step in the right direction and a nice change of pace, but I'd probably look elsewhere for a more balanced experience. Alright, get out of my video.